If there is one key word that captures the essence of SAP functionality, that word would be integration. Integration is what drives SAP software and its various functions towards efficiency and productivity. In this portion of the course, we will review the various ways SAP achieves layered integration and manages business processes across the application. We will cover the following 4 key topics. The first is the difference between the software packages offered by SAP. Then we will look at how SAP is customized for any specific enterprise. Then we'll look at the SAP client-server architecture, and finally, the real-time processing in SAP. Each of these areas will give you a greater understanding of SAP's capabilities and appeal to enterprise organizations. The first SAP software package we're going to cover is the standard SAP software, which is the equivalent of an out-of-box version of SAP. Using standard SAP has many advantages. However, it does require that an enterprise fit into or modify its operations to accommodate SAP and maximize the software's capabilities. In some cases, organizations decide to change and customize SAP rather than modify their own work culture or processes to fit into the standard SAP package. This can be costly and in some cases detracts from SAP's maximum level of efficiency. Also, with standard SAP software, customers benefit from continuous optimizations and enhancements that are easier to implement. The second option for SAP software is known as individual or customized software package. This can be considered as the opposite of a standard package and is developed for one specific customer and their specific requirements. In this case, the customer has to pay for the development work themselves and all subsequent costs on their own, but they are able to maintain their own unique and specialized operating procedures within their own version of SAP. The third software package SAP provides encompasses various predefined packages known as industry solutions. Even though industry solutions are also customized, they differ from customized solutions in that they are not developed for one specific customer, rather for customers within a specific industry. SAP has developed, as far as 2012, 24 industry solutions that include manufacturing, automotive and utilities, just to name a few. Industry solutions are standard software with an extended functional scope mapped to the business processes of a specific industry. As such, they may not incur the same cost associated with a customized version of SAP developed for one specific customer. Each of these packages have contributed to the success of SAP software within the ERP market. SAP products can be customized according to each customer's requirements, allowing them to select those components that suit their own specific needs. These components are often referred to as modules, and this is something we will cover later on in the course. Now, during the implementation phase of an SAP system, the system is enabled through the configuration process. Configuration allows you to map SAP's specific functions to the business processes of the enterprise without any customized programming. This is called the organizational structure and includes client data, company codes, and other relevant information. You can conduct configuration in the SAP system using the implementation guide, which maps the settings options sorted by business area. As shown in this configuration model, implementation involves gathering business requirements and processes before mapping them into the configuration process. This includes end-to-end processes, organizational units and other applicable business functions. Once the configuration is completed, the system is tested before moving closer to a go-live date. When standard configuration options are insufficient, programming requirements can be implemented using SAP's development environment with ABAP. This stands for Advanced Business Application Programming. Sometimes there are inconsistencies when a customer feels that the configuration options or standard versions of SAP are simply not sufficient to run their business. In these cases, SAP does offer options for extending the system with custom developments or products by SAP partners. These non-SAP products can be integrated via the technical platform SAP NetWeaver. As mentioned earlier in this course, one of the key features SAP brings to the table is an integrated platform. When you execute a transaction, it triggers a process that has a ripple effect across several business areas. For example, let's say an end user executes a transaction to create a purchase order. Once this purchase order is created, it may impact several areas outside of the purchasing area, such as finance and logistics business areas. Due to the level of platform integration of all business processes, it is critical for an end user to understand and know the end-to-end process before executing a transaction in SAP. The SAP software is driven primarily by transactions that are mapped to business processes. When you execute a transaction in SAP, you trigger a process that has been mapped from end to end. As shown in this graphic, the SAP system focuses on the business process because these processes are mapped continuously within the system in order to achieve real-time performance and results. SAP records all processes, steps, and user transactions so that they are continuously transparent and reproducible at any time. Okay, you've heard me mention by now how critical SAP's real-time capabilities are. However, now I want to reinforce exactly how and why that's important when it comes to functionality. Because SAP is thoroughly integrated, changes in the system must be accessible to all applicable roles involved. Otherwise, a co-worker or colleague from another department may be working with inaccurate information. If someone in sales places a sales order, that order has a ripple effect in inventory, production, or finance instantaneously after the order is processed. There's nothing more real-time than that. Another example is, let's say you add a contract partner to the vendor master record in an SAP system. Once you save the information, the change is immediately applied within the entire SAP system. Every user who has the necessary role and authorization can access that master record and view the new entry. Now that we have covered SAP processes and how the system functions, we can't overlook the overall functional environment of SAP. In other words, its architecture. So let's revisit the platform of SAP's architecture. As stated in the previous section, SAP uses a 3-layer client-server architecture that involves the presentation layer, application layer, and the database layer. So let's take a look at how these layers work together in an SAP system. When you use the SAP system on your workplace computer to call a customer record, some other customer data, this request is transferred from your computer to the application server. And once the application server receives the request, it carries out processing and then requests specific data from the database layer. The data is then passed back to the application server, and then the application server serves it on to the end client for us to see on our screens. Now let's highlight the role each of these layers plays in the client-server architecture. The presentation layer does just what it sounds like. It presents SAP to the user at the workplace on their computer. The graphical user interface, known as the GUI, lives within the presentation layer. Now the application layer, also known as the server, is where all of the SAP applications reside. The database layer is the third tier of the SAP's client-server architecture. The database is responsible for storing and maintaining all the data the SAP system uses. It should be noted that there are some disadvantages to the client-server architecture. If the server ever fails, none of the clients will work. Therefore, the network infrastructure must be stable and secure.